Ooh, what's this? Another Steve Shives video? Oh, am I spoiling you guys? Hell yes I am.
It's Tuesday at the Breakfast Club. Steve here. How's everybody doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. I mean, I did get tore apart by Lisa yesterday night, but apart from that, it was okay.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
Hurry up, Steve!
Our subject this week, thanks to Peach.
Oh, for God's sake, not Peach. Every time it's been Peach these last two videos, Steve. Come on, can you not think of somebody else to get you your topics of choice? Because so far she's given you terrible choices.
Is whether or not certain subjects are off limits to jokes, are no joking matters.
Oh, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be good.
And I have stronger feelings on this than I had about last week's topic of cultural appropriation, mostly because I have been on both sides of this. I have told jokes that have offended people.
Steve, you better hand in your mangina card. You offended someone.
And I have been offended by jokes that I have heard other people tell.
Ooh, I'm not sure that's gonna bring back your mangina card, Steve. But it's okay, you've got a Lifetime Achievement Award for being the biggest mangina of 2015 anyway, so I guess that kind of, balances it out a bit.
And I have a few thoughts. First, I agree with Peach that context matters.
Yes, it does, Steve. Context definitely does matter, especially with words. Ooh, is this going to be quite a good video from Steve?
I also think it's worth pointing out that in comedy there is a commonly held principle that comedy should punch up and not punch down.
God damn it, Steve. We were getting somewhere. Just when you said context matters, you go and pull this doobie. Oh my god. Oh, Steve. Where to start, Steve? Steve, let me tell you something. I don't know where you got this from, but since when was it a commonly held belief that comedy should punch up rather than down? Now, most comedy definitely does punch up rather than down, because, let's be honest, it's the people higher up that are trying to stop them telling the joke. Hence why we have more comedians punching up, because they want to push the boundaries, and to do that you have to attack those above who make the rules and say what is right and what is wrong in terms of humour. But, you can punch down, especially when it's warranted. I don't know how many times I have seen comedians joke about, I don't know, take your pick, rednecks, chavs, etc, etc. I mean, look at Little Britain. Not only did they punch up in ridiculing the upper classes, but they also punched down and ridiculed the working classes. So, I don't know where this commonly held belief comes from. A comedian will take the piss out of anyone that he or she deems to be worthy of ridicule. Because let's be honest, especially in this day and age, punching down could probably help solve our current censorship problem, because currently it's not necessarily the government that is doing so. It is people on Twitter, on Facebook, who are doing all the dirty work that governments could only dream of doing before.
Which means comedy should not be bullying. Comedy should take the side of the underprivileged or the outcast or the marginalized. It should not be used to inflict more punishment and abuse on them from a privileged position. I think that's a really strong principle.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but most comedy doesn't even do that. Most comedy has never had such a, moralistic and egalitarian approach to attacking those up above who rule everyone, the powers that be. A lot of comedy is pretty much middle of the road, doesn't want to harm anyone, doesn't want to, oppress anyone, Morecambe and Wise in Britain, Seinfeld over in America, they don't press any buttons, they just make funny jokes that everyone can relate to. There's no punching up, and there's certainly no punching down. And then you get comedians like, again, Little Britain, who punch up and punch down. Because let's be honest, everything can be poked fun of. Everything can be made a joke. And they're not oppressing anyone, certainly. I mean, I'll be honest, and I've been researching this a lot, they do, in some cases, I'd argue, especially when there's an agenda going on, there can be reinforcement of stereotypes that people will then use the comedy to basically confirm their own biases and agendas. So say, oh, we've got a problem with these people, these chavs or these rednecks. Someone's going to use this joke to highlight their beliefs, when really the joke is probably just that, a joke about a certain segment of society. The comedian probably didn't think anything of it, but certainly these people in the press and the governments will use a comedian and artist's work to their advantage. But no, I think, especially in this day and age, with people like you, Schteve, punching down is definitely something that more comedians should be doing. Because then it might, humble you and make you think, oh, maybe I was wrong the whole time. But no, I'm just talking out my ass. I'm just mansplaining right now.
I also think that it's important that we respect the right of people to not think jokes are funny.
Schteve, that is not important. That is basic common sense. I don't care if you don't find my jokes about you funny, with my use of those film clips. I respect your opinion, but the thing is, your social justice colleagues and, to a lesser extent, you yourself, do not respect our opinions that we find lampooning of you to be funny. You lot are always telling us what we should find and not find funny. So don't go and tell me that I should respect you for not finding my jokes funny when you can't respect the fact that I find it funny.
Or to not think that certain subjects are fit to joke about.
Sorry, Schteve, I disagree with you there. I can respect someone not finding a joke funny, but I cannot respect someone basically telling me I can't joke about that because they don't find it funny. I will joke about anything that I find funny. I mean, just George Carlin said that he can find anything funny. You could joke about anything. Yes, and that means such horrible subjects as rape and murder and sexism and women. Did I trigger you there, Steve?
I personally think that in principle, certainly not in practice.
Oh, it's all about the principles, and it's all about the morals, Steve. You don't have anything in that backbone of yours. Oh no, wait, you don't have a backbone. You're an invertebrate.
But in principle, there is no subject that cannot be joked about and made funny. If the situation is appropriate, if the person making the joke is skilled enough to take something that is typically considered tragic and horrific and make it into something funny. And when that happens, when all the pieces click into place and you hear a joke about something absolutely horrible, about something that typically you would think of as the furthest thing from funny, and you hear a joke about it that makes you laugh about it, that makes it funny in that moment, that's a beautiful thing. That's one of the most wonderful things about comedy, is when it can make you laugh at things that in everyday life you would never laugh at, that you would fear or would grieve you. That's a wonderful thing. And I don't think that we should cut ourselves off from that experience by saying, well, there are certain things you just should never, ever joke about.
But that's only in principle, Schteve. That's not in practice, as you're about to say. I mean, oh sure, you can joke about all these horrific, dark subjects that, might actually help a person get through these dark subjects that may have been dealt to them by the hand of life. But in practice, we just can't do it. You either have to be one of us, where it's okay to do so, or you have to be a very skilled comedian that we approve of. Only then can you make a joke like that. If you're Daniel Tosh and you make a rape joke, hell no, you can't be doing that. But if you're Sarah Silverman joking about black people and joking about sex and all sorts of dark subjects and silly, lewd subjects, that's A-OK in our books because she's for political correctness.
But people are allowed to not think jokes are funny. People are allowed to be offended. People are allowed to be outraged. And I think their offense and their outrage, as long as it's sincere, should be respected.
As I've already said, it is respected. It's common sense to respect someone's opinions. But the problem is, this is coming from you, Shives. You can't respect other people's opinions that clash with your own. We've seen this constantly. You deleted Teal there and blocked him from Twitter because, he happened to make a video that, made fun of you and also critically and brilliantly reputed your points. You've done it to one of my friends just because he linked something to you. And I'm sure if you were to see my video, you would do so. And let's not forget what Vindicator showed in that Facebook conversation you had with the person who politely disagreed with you and said that, I'm just going to go away, I'll be right back to talk to you later, lads. You said, oh, no, you're not. And you blocked him just for speaking his mind. So I cannot take you seriously because you are not sincere in your outrage and in your offence. I cannot take anything you say about this seriously, Schteve, because your record does not back this up. In fact, I'd wager that you should not be lecturing me on this at all, considering what you've been up to in the past, I mean, I respect another person's right to not find the jokes that I say on streams and in my channel to not be funny. I readily accept that. I have probably outraged my neighbours quite a few times when I've shouted a few times, especially my coarse language, and I should know better. I really should, but I have to do it for effect. This is what I need to do for my channel. But I respect their opinions, and, if I hear, the children playing in the street, I will try and tone it down, because, I don't want to, hurt them. I think, I respect their wishes sometimes, if I think it's true. And to be honest, that's not necessarily, censoring myself. That's just being respectful. I respect the people that I know who are being sincere. But what I don't respect is people like you, who censor people and block people so you can have a nice echo chamber for yourselves. Shut up, Schteve.
And we shouldn't be the sort of people who try to argue others out of being offended by jokes. If you tell a joke, especially if it's about a sensitive subject, and someone is offended by it, and someone says, I didn't like your joke, I don't think you should be joking about that sort of thing, the proper response is not, I think, to dig in your heels and to presume to tell this person what they ought to think is funny.
Oh, but that's so funny, Schteve, because that's exactly what you're doing to me right now in this video. But do carry on.
Or try to convince them or make the case for your joke. This was a good joke, and here's why I'm right, and here's why you're wrong. They have a right to be offended. They have a right to be outraged. For whatever reason.
So don't defend yourself. Don't protect your freedom of speech, people. Don't mansplain to these people who are offended by your joke. Don't say, I have a right to say this. I find it funny, and if you don't find it funny, don't listen to my comedy or watch my videos or, whatever. Oh, just, say, okay, I respect your opinion. I won't make this joke ever again. Offence is taken, given, not taken, obviously, Basically, bend over backwards for the outrage culture. That's what Schteve is saying. At least this is a bit more honest.
And when you tell a joke about a sensitive subject, you have to take responsibility for that joke. Even if it's only a few people in the audience who think that it's not funny. You are the one who told the joke. You are the one who, for whatever reason, maybe even through no fault of your own, you were not able to connect with the person who was offended by the joke. They did not get your intention. They did not see the subject matter the same way you did or the way you were hoping they would. And you have to take responsibility for that. You have to say, look, I'm the one who told the joke. And you have a right to not think it's funny. It doesn't mean you can't ever joke about potentially troublesome topics. It doesn't mean you can't ever skirt the edge of good taste. Many brilliant comedians do that and have done that for decades. I'm not saying that we can't ever have jokes in our culture about sensitive topics, but when people are offended by them and people are outraged, we have to get away from this mentality of, well, it's their problem and they're wrong, and jokes can be about anything.
Wow, Schteve, I don't even know when to start with that. You contradicted yourself so many times through that passage there that I just cannot just compute what you said. Let me just try and compute it right now. Schteve. Ah, there we go. Okay, so you can make jokes about anything. anything at all. I'm totally okay with you telling this joke. But when someone is offended, you need to take responsibility for your actions because this person got offended and their offence must be taken as the absolute gospel that it is. It's not their problem, it's your problem. It's your fault that they were offended because you told the joke. Despite the fact that offence is taken, not given, it's your fault. And you should censor yourself. And that this person is right. This person's feelings were hurt. That trumps everything. That trumps your freedom of speech. That trumps your right to tell this joke. You're the problem, not this person. Despite all these things, in principle, you can, tell this joke whatever you want. But no, when someone's offended, then you have to stop, okay? Because that's crossing the line. This is Steve Shives, people. This is Steve Shives, a raging hypocrite.
That's true in principle, but in practice it doesn't always hold up, especially given how subjective comedy and each individual's taste in what is funny and what isn't is. It's a very subjective, very individual thing that's very strongly influenced by personal experience and personal taste.
So what? In practice it does work, though, in many ways, because eventually, as time changes, these jokes either lose the bite they had or become far more respected. George Carlin again. I hate using George Carlin too much, but I have to. When he got arrested for using his 7 dirty words routine, at the time, that was considered obscene, and now it's considered funny as hell. So, what the fuck, Schteve?
If we tell a joke and somebody informs us that it wasn't funny to them and that it offended them, then I think we need to be accepting of that and we need to be open to that. And you know what? Maybe we could even listen to why they didn't like the joke, if they are able or willing to articulate it.
Why should I, though? Like you said in your example, it was only 1 or 2, 3 people. Everybody else found it absolutely hilarious. I don't have to, listen to the people to decide whether a joke or not is funny. I do what I want to do. Sometimes I'll take the criticism as long as it's constructive. I don't take criticism when it's emotional and not rational and logical. I'm sorry, Steve, but feels are not what motivate me to make these jokes better than they are. It's constructive, logical criticism. These people aren't constructive, logical and reasonable when they are offended. Hell, they're not even constructive and logical and reasonable when they aren't offended anyway. So why should I take what they say seriously? Like you, why should I take what you're saying to me seriously after the track record that you've got?
And maybe we could learn something. Maybe we've been telling a joke in a way that is insensitive.
Well, so what? What are they doing at a comedy show then, if they're going to get offended? If they know they're going to get offended by a joke? That's their problem, that they're too sensitive to handle a comedian at a stand-up show or watching a show on the TV that is quite politically incorrect. They know damn well what they're getting into. It's their problem, not ours.
That is unnecessarily crass or offensive, and maybe we could craft a better joke as a result of that input.
I'm sorry, but why should I be encouraged to craft a better joke just because some irresponsible person who gets offended at a comedy show or a video that I've done because of a joke didn't like what I had to say? Why should I listen to this person who thinks they know better than me, who thinks that they, in their emotional and angry state, can give me advice on how to craft a better joke? I'd much rather someone who wasn't offended but didn't find it funny and had a logical and reasonable thing to say to me than someone who is on Twitter and being knee-jerk and attacking me for being all sorts of rubbish and getting offended. Sorry, Steve, I disagree with you there. You see, I see what you're trying to do here. You're trying to take the responsibility of the person who's being offended onto the person who told the joke. I'm sorry, but in this day and age, I have noticed that we are taking responsibility away from people who really should have, the responsibility and the knowledge beforehand to know that if you don't like this thing, don't watch it. You should have done this rather than that. But no, instead it's always the person that they are attacking who is responsible, even if they're completely innocent. It could be anything. It could be a comedian telling a joke. It's their fault, not the person who went to see the comedian knowing full well they wouldn't like the humour in the first place. Or, the kid, the young boy in school who was raped by his female teacher. whether it be, consensual or not. If the lad is not of age, he cannot be having sex with her. It's statutory rape. But it's okay, it's his fault because he wanted it. He must have wanted it. He's a guy after all. You see what I mean, Schteve? You see what I mean? We're taking responsibility away from the people who should be having the responsibility. But never mind. My words are falling on deaf ears because you can't hear me in your echo chamber. My thoughts exactly, Steve. Anyway, guys, that's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. I will be touching upon some important issues in the coming weeks. I was just getting rid of some videos on my drive that I've been meaning to talk about, or just couldn't be asked talking about because either they're not interesting or I don't think that they would warrant a video being made, despite me downloading them in the first place. So this is probably, I think, the last one of them. I can't really see any that I'd want to do a video of. So this is why you get 2 Shives in a week. So anyway, this has been CharmingMan93. Like and share the video, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you all later.